I now call the open council meeting of Monday, June 22nd, 2020 back to order and ask that
It hasn't gone live yet.
I now call the open council meeting of Monday, June 22nd, 2020 back to order and ask that everyone make sure their cell phones are turned off for the duration of the meeting. And I'd like to ask the acting clerk to provide a report concerning matters discussed during the last closed session.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. There was one item on the closed agenda this evening, and Council received an educational presentation regarding the role of municipalities in consultation and reconciliation. And for the information of anyone watching, all members of council are in attendance either in the council chambers or attending remotely.
Thank you. We have no delegations this evening, no presentations. We have one public notice which the acting clerk will review.
The public notice is pertaining to the upcoming traffic and parking changes around St. Joseph's School. Effective September 1st, a maximum speed school zone will be in effect from Colonization Avenue to 97.5 meters west of the west leg of Park Crescent, with a reduced speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour. The restrictions will be in place from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday from September 1 to June 30th of each year when signals are flashing. Also effective September 1st and during school times, the current no parking area on the east side of Evergreen Place from Parkdale Road to 95 meters north of Parkdale Road will become a no stopping area, and the current school bus loading zone on the west side of Evergreen Place will become a no parking area. Additionally, a no stopping area will be created on the north side of Parkdale Road from the intersection of Evergreen Place to 35 meters east of Evergreen Place, and vehicles traveling southbound on Evergreen Place will be prohibited from turning left onto Parkdale Road.
All right, thank you. So we are now at consent agenda part 1, general, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay, I'll review the items that are in consent agenda part 1, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any of those items that members of council would like to speak to and or sever for separate voting. Under adopt and receive minutes, all of the minutes presented tonight are to be adopted. We have minutes of Finance Committee meetings held February 11th and April 15th, and the minutes of the June 3rd Policy and Bylaw Review Committee meeting. As well, we have the minutes of the Special Committee of the Whole meeting held September 23rd, 2019, and the Special Council meeting held November 28th, 2019. The Committee of the Whole meeting held May 11th. Special council meeting held May 11th, and the council meeting held May 25th. Under motions arising from previous meetings, there are 3 motions this evening. The first is to continue with the interest and finance charge grace period on property taxes and sewer and water bills through to June 30th, 2020. Second is to allow for a rent deferral option for tenants in good standing at the Dryden Regional Airport for up to 4 months or for the duration of the emergency period, whichever is greater. And the third is to approve the water long-range financial forecast as was presented at the May council meeting. Do any members of council wish to speak to or sever any of these for separate voting? Seeing none.
Okay.
Okay, shall I ask for a
Need
mover?
a mover and a second.
We'll need a mover and a seconder, please, for consent agenda part 1. Councillor Martin, McKinnon, and Councillor Carlucci. I see you. So moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Carlucci. The council hereby consider the following items of the consent agenda part 1 general under the date of June 22nd, 2020 as read and adopted. 10 A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and 11 A, B, and C.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carried. Thank you. So now we're at consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda as well.
Okay, again, I'll review the bylaws that make up consent agenda part 2 this evening, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any items that members would like to speak to and or sever for separate vote. We have several bylaws this evening. Bylaw 4739, 2020 is a bylaw to adopt tax rates to be levied on the taxable property within the City of Dryden for school board purposes. Bylaw 4740-2020 adopts tax ratios for the purpose of setting general and education tax rates, to choose optional tax classes, and to set tax rate reductions for prescribed property subclasses within the City of Dryden. Bylaw 4741-2020 is a bylaw to adopt tax rates to be levied on the taxable property within the City of Dryden. Bylaw 4743-2020 is a bylaw to amend the city's municipal code by deleting and replacing the benefit changes for non-union employees policy and the sick leave policy, and deleting the family compassionate leave policy. Bylaw 4744-2020 is a bylaw to deem part of a registered plan, those properties commonly known as 60 and 62 Thunder Drive, not to be part of a registered plan of subdivision, as presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting. Bylaw 4745-2020 amends the city's municipal code by adding the preventing COVID-19 in the workplace and infection disease control policies, and deleting and replacing the contractor safety policy. Bylaw 4746-2020 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement with Miller Environmental Corporation for the provision of Household Hazardous Waste Day for 2020. Bylaw 4747-2020 authorizes the execution of an agreement with Miller Northwest for the provision of asphalt patches in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Bylaw 4748-2020 is a bylaw to authorize the execution of a lease agreement with Mr. Fred Van Boat for approximately 360 square meters of land at the Dryden Regional Airport. Bylaw 4749-2020 is a bylaw to amend the 2020 municipal budget to account for the 2019 operating surplus and to allocate the HST rebate to the General Capital Reserve Fund. Bylaw 4750-2020 amends the city's municipal code by deleting the logo policy. And bylaw 4751-2020 is the confirmatory bylaw for this meeting.
Someone, well done. Someone to move and
Well, we
second.
have to ask if anybody wants to. Anybody like to speak to or sever any of these for a separate vote?
Everybody's good?
Everybody's good, okay. Then in that case, I'll ask for somebody to move and second the motion, please. Okay, thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Bush. The Council consider Section 14 of the Consent Agenda Part 2 bylaws under the date of June 22nd, 2020, which includes the following bylaws as read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor?
I gotta read the list
Oh,
again.
sorry. Okay.
You're so good. Bylaw 4739-2020, Bylaw 4740-2020, Bylaw 4741-2020, Bylaw 4743-2020, Bylaw 4744-2020, Bylaw 4745-2020, Bylaw 4746-2020, Bylaw 4747-2020, Bylaw 4748-2020, Bylaw 4749-2020, Bylaw 4750-2020, and Bylaw 4751-2020.
Say that time, sometimes backwards, right? All right.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're back to the regular agenda, which is out of consent, and each item on the regular agenda will be presented individually to council. I'd like Ms. Spielmacher to present her report.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to present to Council the updated sanitary bylaw, which incorporates changes that were made with the recommendation from correspondence that was received on June 8th prior to our Committee of the Whole meeting regarding the installation of spirit houses in the Dryden Cemetery. I'm also requesting that this bylaw be removed from the City of Dryden Municipal Code, where it is known as Chapter 35 Cemeteries. I am recommending the Council approve the bylaw so that this may be forwarded to the Virgin Authority of Ontario for their review and approval. Are there any questions?
No questions? Okay.
I have a comment.
Councillor Shane McKinnon?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I have a comment, and
I believe these changes reflect the solemnity and cultural respect associated with spirit houses. They are also indicative of how the City of Dryden can, and I believe will, become more aware of the needs of all of our community residents. As a proud community member, I'm very hopeful that this type of decision will be held out as an example when we consider naming or renaming streets or facilities within the city, when we talk about the use of parks and structures on park property, when we talk about meaningful and lasting partnerships with our Indigenous neighboring communities, when we talk about community well-being and safety, and when we follow up on our strategic plans. I want to publicly thank Ms. Spielmacher and the other city staff for not only amending this bylaw, but for incorporating the concerns forwarded 3 short weeks ago to this bylaw. I am sure it took a lot of work and thought, and I very much appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
Okay, we need someone to move and second.
Yes, can I have someone move and second the resolution, please? Councillor Carlucci and Councillor Bush, thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Bush, that bylaw 4742, 2020, being a bylaw to amend the municipal code of the Corporation of the City of Dryden by deleting Chapter 35 cemeteries and to adopt a new cemetery bylaw, be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. We have no notices of motion this evening. We have no motions. Reports of municipal officers. Roger?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a few comments tonight. Just give council and anybody watching the meeting tonight a quick update on our reopening of services. So city staff have reopened Erin Park. That's to full camping as of today, with the exception there are no public showers or laundry services, and that's by order of Ontario Parks. So somewhat out of our hands, but otherwise the park is open, and hopefully our patrons are able to enjoy it this summer. The Sandy Beach Ball Diamonds and the Sandy Beach soccer field is also open. All services at City Hall, including the provincial offences front counter, are open to the public. Museum has opened under some restrictions, but they are open for appointments to visit the museum. And we've had the resumption of some in-house waterworks services as well. Services and equipment that remain closed, all playground equipment remains closed, and that's under Ontario provincial government order. All public washrooms in our parks and outdoor spaces remain closed. All splash pads in the city remain closed. Park rentals, we continue to not do any park rentals to large groups, and that's mainly because of the group size restrictions that are still in place. Our swimming pool and fitness center still remain closed. And the arena will remain closed through to September 1st, and any summer ice events that we had booked in August are canceled at this point, and all parties have been made aware of that. Just a quick note on our service delivery and organizational review. We're coming to the end of our internal data gathering with all of our job shadowing activities happening this week. So once that's complete, Blackline, our third-party consultant doing the review, will start the analysis process of the data. We launched a City Services public survey last week, and that'll form our public engagement for this portion of the review. And that closes on July 19th, so that's open to all members of the public, and hopefully we get some of our residents filling that survey out and letting us know what they think of city services and ways that we can improve. We'll also be doing a municipal comparator data gathering exercise, and that'll give us a chance to do an in-depth benchmarking exercise against some other municipalities. So most of July will be spent doing the data analysis, and then Blackline will be back with city staff to provide all the opportunities and such that they've identified through the process. And just a quick note on recruitment. We continue to recruit for the asset and facility manager position. And we're starting to see some of our student positions getting filled and some of those students returning to employment with the city. While some of those positions that we had planned, summer student positions for this summer won't be filled due to the COVID-19 situation. And that's all I have, Your Worship.
Great, thank you. Without those summer students, how noticeable do you think it will be for citizens to see their...
It would be very noticeable in many situations. Public Works comes to mind. We have a lot of summer student positions in the Parks Department. So when you think about flowers, grass cutting around town, a lot of the cleanup, litter cleanup and public washroom cleanup, that's done a lot by student workforce. So very, very noticeable to residents.
Great, thank you. Not great, but thanks for letting us know. Treasurer, is Stephen there?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Just from brief update from my perspective is working on a user fee policy as well as updating two very dated policies that Allison has notified me about. One goes back to 2002 and one goes back to 2003. So we'll be working on updating those. With our tax bylaws in place, the property tax final bills will be issued at the beginning of August with 2 installments due, the first one being the end of August and then the second installment being due the end of September. I'm also going to be presenting with Council a 2020 Q2 financial report in July, so we'll start ramping up on that. That's it for me.
All right, thanks, Stephen. City Clerk, Acting Clerk.
Just from our perspective, an administration work's been taking place to move forward with changing the way bylaws and city policies are seen on our website. As Roger mentioned earlier, job shadowing, which is part of the service delivery review, took place earlier today in our department. And again, a reminder to the public of the resident survey, also part of the service delivery review, which can be found on the city's website.
Great, thank you. Public Works, is Blake there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just going to give a quick synopsis of a lot of the things we have been doing the last few weeks and things coming up as well here. For water and sewer, city crews are currently replacing a segment of sanitary sewer line on 2nd Street. You may have seen the road closure go out. That'll take about a week. Water meter reads start next week again here. We're still not seeing much change in usage due to COVID-19, and the public will see Cambry and Brown doing CCTV inspections and pipe cleaning, and that should start the next few weeks for our sanitary and storm sewer system. As far as the Van Horn Avenue construction is going on, I know people don't see Van Horn Avenue closed at the moment here, but that doesn't mean work is not going on. Crews are currently placing new water main down the back lane between Van Horn and Pitt Avenue, between Holland Street and Orvis. It's about 330 meters of water main. This part of the project that I'm very happy about because it gets rid of a problem we've had for many years, and that's that there is bedrock on Van Horn Avenue between Holland Street and Victoria, and there is a 1934 water main that currently runs right beside on the east side of Van Horn, just a few feet away from a number of houses, like about 6 to 8 houses. Very worried that if it breaks or there's ever a problem, we're going to be liable for a fair amount of damage to houses. So I'm very happy that's working out and going ahead. So, and it looks like we'll be probably closing Van Horn down early next week to continue on with some of our underground work that's currently going on. Sidewalk construction work also started today here. That part of our contract, and that the starting segment was on Kirkpatrick, and that began today. As far as road operations are going, line painting is well underway with the contractor and city staff. Crack sealing is being done. It was set up to work on Parkdale today, but there happened to rain. Miller is out there patching utility cuts, water, sewer, gas. as well as a few patches on the highway recently. We've been out grading the gravel road in the rural area, and storm sewer work has started. As you may have noticed, some holes are starting to open up around a few catch basins every time it rains, so we're trying to be reactive to that as well. The landfill is operating normally. We just finished our environmental sampling. That took place last week for the spring sampling, and we've been working on Barclay closure as well as putting in some fences as well here. As far as parks goes, flowers were planted this year. You'll notice there's less flowers this year due to COVID-19. We usually work with the Rotary Club and Community Blooms for the downtown pots and hanging baskets, and we were unsure of what kind of labor force we would have with the COVID-19. So you will notice we're a little late on flowers this year, but we're keeping up with them currently as well here. We've been mowing the parks and city properties, as well as trimming is ongoing. And as Roger mentioned about what is closed and not closed for COVID-19. There was also a concern expressed about some trees being cut down for park recently, very large trees, but these 2 old trees did have a substantial dead growth on them. There was a significant risk to the public safety as these trees are right over a trail as well here. We did look at different options there. The history of the trees is they're a type of poplar, but they're not native to this area. They were planted there. I believe there was a house there previously here. We've reached out to a person who used to do the historic trees tour. I got some information from him as well here. They did live a lot longer than expected, but there was some really bad rot happening in parts of the tree. There may have been some green branches there, but taking down the dead branches, damaging any of the ones that looked like they were still living. We don't know how much longer they were. But the trunks will stay there. There's a couple of different options. We're either going to let them sit there and see if some new growth comes out of them. We've had some of the public, like the museum, offering to cut off some coupons off just to have them in on display at the museum as well. And we've also had some interest in carving as well, wood carving. So there has been different types of interest. Some people are not happy that they've been cut down, but others are reaching out and understanding it and trying to do with what we have left there. So I just wanted to bring up that point. That's my report.
All right, thanks, Blake. Much appreciated. And Manager of Community Services, Steve Belanger.
Hi, good evening, all. Thank you. I think Roger covered a lot of it with regards to our openings. Thank you, Roger, on that. Just like to remind people that when they're using those facilities to continue to do their best on the social distancing end and continue to use hand sanitizer, bring hand sanitizer. If you're using or sharing bats, balls, or touching fencing materials, you can never be so safe, or too safe on that. Roger mentioned also the park is open. Hopefully great camping season, from June on moving forward. And we received a little bit of good news as well today with Aaron Park as a small funding application for student funding was received, and we ended up with coverage for 1 student for Aaron Park this year. So any help is good help. Inside the department office, and really working now hard on developing our opening procedures and trying to figure out what that may look like. A little bit of a moving target as everything changes, but we've got a lot of really good information, and it's coming along quite well. Completed most of our signage installs, including Sandy Beach and the soccer or skate park recently, so you're again seeing our new logo up and about. Inside the rink, dressing room doors and frames have all been removed. The install for those wider frames has started. Arena flooring has been completely removed all around Rink 1 in the hallway and in the dressing rooms. So now it's the process of smoothing out and feathering some of the rough spots on the existing floor before we get that installed. The installers will be in close to the last week of July to complete that. They anticipate being here anywhere between 11 and 14 days to get that installed. So that's great. And staff are looking forward to opening up the building, welcome everyone back when it's safe to see some of the changes, and it's going to be a nice welcome for our people to finally welcome them back in. Outside at our complexes, fertilizer, topsoil, feed has been applied at Rotary Park and as well as Sandy Beach. So those turfs should be in as good condition as we've seen them in a very, very long time, very shortly. Unfortunately, we don't got anyone using them this year, but it's also a great opportunity to rest those fields, and we're going to see those rewards in 2021. So finally, Canada Day schedule is finalized. It's been shared. We're starting to get in some submissions for that, and I'd just like to wish everyone safe and happy Canada Day. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Steve. And Fire Chief Grimwood, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. We're starting to pick up in terms of call volume. It had been fairly quiet since COVID started, just less businesses open, less vehicles on the road. We continue to train. We have our new self-contained breathing apparatus, which was approved in this year's capital budget. They've been delivered, and we're in the process of training all of our firefighters on that, which is pretty extensive. Time that course has been done up here, it was well received. And next weekend, we have 15 firefighters writing their NFPA certification exam with the Fire Marshal's office. They're sending in a provincial evaluator, and we're going to do everything in-house here. And hopefully, if all the firefighters are successful, 15 of them will receive their NFPA certification, which is the internationally recognized standard. So we're pretty happy with that. Other than that, we're just continuing to keep an eye on everything related to the provincial state of emergency. Our emergency management program committee met this morning, and we're continuing to move along with that work as well on our way to compliance. So happy to answer any questions anyone has.
All right. Stay tuned. They might have it when they get their turn for their remarks. Just before we get to the councillors, just personal observation that resident survey. Who created the questions? Was it internal? Blackline Consult. Oh, it was Blackline. Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking they didn't have one option. They had about 3 options for what you might want to see as a citizen for, raising taxes, cutting services, vice versa. So I just noticed there was one that was missing, and I'd just like to say maybe it's a loaded survey because it doesn't have this on. I would like to see the question: no taxes, no tax increases, no reduction in services, yet an increase in spending. So I'd love to see that in the next survey. Councillor McKay.
Oh, geez. I'm good. Everything's moving along.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you. A little something here, and I'd like to read it. And it's simply, we're living in very turbulent and unpredictable times. There are many issues and global dynamics that we have no control over. And then there are issues like the COVID-19 pandemic that, in spite of its scale, we can take measures to mitigate and hopefully eliminate either locally, regionally, or beyond by working together. This is no different than mitigating and eliminating racism. As long as, as a lifelong resident of our community, I've seen systemic racism. I've seen the divide created by us and them, or us versus them attitude. And sometimes that attitude is spoken in hushed tones, and sometimes it's shouted, neither of which is acceptable. I'm happy to say that there's less and less of that attitude as the years go by. However, when you say, I do not have COVID-19, that's not enough. You take precautions, you follow rules, you adjust to the new normal, and you work together with others to stop the spread. When you say, I'm not a racist, that is not enough. Make racism unacceptable. Become an advocate for others, their culture, their needs, their rights. Speak out against hate and racism in order to stop the spread. We need to move forward together, recognize that we must lift each other up to be successful. I'm very pleased that the City of Dryden will embark on positive moves that will lead our community to be better in Indigenous relationships and anti-racist. To those that have undertaken that mission already, Dryden and Area Anti-Racism Network, Dryden Native Friendship Center, Kuwait Patricia District School Board, Kenora District Services Board, Northwest Health Unit, and many other organizations, governments, and non-government. To all those organizations, thank you, and we will catch up. We are a great little town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin McKinnon.
Not much to report, Mayor, today. Attended a Kenora Services Board meeting last week, and they continue to put a lot of resources to COVID-19 and looking after shelters for homelessness, and currently have trained EMS teams to go into the northern communities to provide testing, and those people are doing that on their days off. So that's wonderful work that is being carried out. I'd like to compliment the senior management team on all the things they just reported that's going on in our community. I'm out and about every day again now, and it's wonderful to see all those good things happening. And the community is in a far better place than it's been for years, so thank you. Also, a shout out to the whole population of Dryden, because I think some of you have to be concerned with your behavior when you talk to people that are providing services to our community. I've been in a few establishments in the last couple of weeks where those wonderful people are in there risking their lives to provide you with services, and they don't quite often need the kind of treatment they receive. They are there to help you, they're doing their best to help you, and they deserve some respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carlucci.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. A couple things. One, a big shout out to, because of Grad not happening in Dryden, in high school Grad, a group of folks took it upon themselves to do a fundraiser on Saturday. So Ella Linz, Jill and Ellie, Jackie Neufeld, Heather Boyko, Mary Healy. But between a bottle drive that they had and cash donation, they raised $6,300 that they will use to buy gift cards to go into report cards. And thanks to citizens who supported this, and good on all of them for taking it on short notice. That's the one. Secondly, I attended a KDMA meeting virtually on, it was Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember the date now. And just with other community leaders and what they're doing on their communities and how they're dealing with COVID and other community issues. So it's good to be a part of that. I'm glad that we're a good member of them. And lastly, stage 2, we're in place of stage 2. Just still take it easy, follow the COVID guidelines, and just try and keep our community safe. We're doing very well right now. I can knock on wood for that. But yeah, I'm pretty proud of that fact. And one last thing, 1935 piping, wow, that's like 85 years old. I don't know if they make that piping like that anymore, but it's pretty cool. So thank you for sharing, Blake.
All right. Thank you. And Councillor Price.
Yes, thank you. With a very busy month, I've been attending weekly case meetings to help in facilitating processing applications for financial assistance to businesses in need during the COVID crisis. Just want to get that word out there that for any business that is in financial dire straits, please get in contact with PACE and hopefully they can help you out in that area. Attended the Chamber of Commerce meetings, and the Fall Festival meeting is tomorrow night. We have another one coming up, and that's to discuss the possibility of the ongoing Fall Festival and how that will come about. We're still not sure yet on how that's going to work. Also attended a peaceful rally this weekend for Black Lives Matter, and would like to thank the DARN committee for organizing the well-attended event, and also for the support shown by our community for the event. It was very inspiring to walk with so many people, and to understand that racism is definitely out there, and how we look at internally in ourselves, how we deal with that. So I want to thank Darn for that invitation to join with them in that walk. And just to wish everyone to stay safe and healthy. Businesses are now open, and you know, just to respect those self-distancing that is out there to keep everyone safe and healthy. Thank you, and hopefully everyone has a good week.
Great. Lastly, Councillor Bush.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Tonight I'd just like to talk a little bit about our strategic plan and some of the work for Council's benefit and also for the benefit of the public about some things that are going on in the background that the Master Plan Steering Committee will be bringing to Council likely sometime in July. Not sure whether it's going to be at the Cal meeting or the Council meeting, but it'll be after we have our Master Plan Steering Committee meeting on July the 8th. I'm happy to report that the city staff under Roger's leadership is working hard on putting together that list of action items from the strategic plan, and he's got all of his managers working on those. There are a couple of bigger items that we've decided as a committee to do some work on. One of them is looking at the waterfront development aspect. And the second one is the items associated with fostering improved relationships with our Aboriginal communities. And there's two action items against that. Councillor Shane McKinnon, Councillor Price, and I were asked if we would do a little bit of background work on that. We've started that process, and I'm hopeful that at the July 8th Master Plan Steering Committee, we'll be able to bring a summary report with perhaps some recommendations, but certainly some things to discuss. Obviously, the Master Plan Steering Committee is a subcommittee of Council, and we don't have any ability to make any decisions, but we can do work and bring it to Council for consideration. The other aspect that we're working on, as I mentioned, was improving relations with our Aboriginal community, and just like to talk about 3 or 4 points from the Truth and Reconciliation report. I don't know who all has had a chance to read that. I have read it now twice, and it's a long report, but it's well worth the read. I think some salient points from that kind of build into some of the things that we've talked about already tonight. If you look at page VI, at the beginning, it says reconciliation will be based on a commitment to mutual respect. If you look at page 6 of the TRC report, how the TRC Commission defines reconciliation is as follows, and they quote, reconciliation is about establishing and maintaining a mutually respectful relationship between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples in this country. Mutually respectful relationship. If you look at page 8, it says reconciliation must inspire Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples to transform Canadian society so that our children and grandchildren can live together in dignity, peace, and prosperity on these lands we now share. And finally, what I'd like to share is their comment on page 307. It says at the community level, where contact between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal peoples is often minimal or marred by distrusted racism, establishing respectful relationships involves learning to be good neighbors. This means being respectful, listening to and learning from each other, building understanding, and taking concrete action to improve relationships. And so as we move forward, I believe that what we're likely to be bringing forward is in that vein. And whatever we do, if it ultimately doesn't end up changing attitudes and behaviors then we probably haven't been successful. And so I think if we're going to be successful, whatever we decide to do as a council, and I would encourage everybody to read the Truth and Reconciliation Report, including the 94 calls to action, is that if we need to consider those things that will actually build relationships, establish dialogue, change behaviors and change attitudes, and all for the better. I think Councillor Shane McKinnon is right. We're better than we were, but we've got a long way to go. It doesn't take listening to very many conversations in the background to know the truth of that. So I think it's a very interesting time that we're in. You know, the George Floyd issues down in the States probably bring all that forward, and I think now is our time to start changing our community for the future. So you can expect to hear more from the Master Plan Steering Committee, and as I said, hopefully that will come about in July, when we'll probably have an initial report for council for your input, consideration, debate, and further things for us to go back and look at. But in the meantime, anybody who has some free time, if you want to read that Truth and Reconciliation Report, it's actually a pretty good read. That's all I've got, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thanks, Councillor Bush. It's good for people, citizens, to hear that there are things going on at council, even though they may not be visible to the public, at least not always, and not totally. So thank you. So we need the acting clerk to ask for someone to move and second to get us out of here.
Okay, I will ask for someone to move and second the motion to adjourn. Councillor Carlucci and Councillor Bush. Okay, moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Bush, that this meeting do hereby adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks.
Stay safe.